Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight's topic is actually a response to a viewer that was on a previous video that I put out called, "Have You Been Discarded by a Narcissist?" Glitter Girl responded, "Yes, I just want to die," which was a very severe comment to read, and I responded, "No creature is worth losing a life over. It may seem that way, but it is never true." And that is true. Yes, I do understand that it can seem like there's nothing else worth living for after being involved with such a creature like that, because they become so much a part of your life, and you, of course, in your own mind, are manufacturing that this is the perfect person for you, and you've established that, but then later these things happen, and they just don't fit in with that, and they weren't what you expected. When you were a little girl or a little boy, you didn't ever think, "Oh, when I grow up, I can't wait to find this beautiful person who's going to lie to me and pretend to be the most wonderful thing I've ever wanted, and who's going to listen to my desires and pretend to fulfill them." None of us ever dream of that. In fact, we should be educated in our childhood classrooms that such creatures exist, so we know what to look out for. Because typically, those who come into contact with these supposed-to-be creatures do so in real life, under real circumstances, not knowing what's going on, just thinking it's what it appears to be, which is you met someone new, they're interested in you, you're interested in them, and you seem to get along so well, so much better than with anybody else. They don't have any problem with anything you do, especially things that you think might be seen as annoying, and they love it, and you just think, wow, I can be myself with this person, and it's a very liberating feeling in the beginning, and these creatures do or don't know what they're doing. They just simply want what they want, which is something that you happen to possess at the moment. She responded, "Thanks, TJ. He blames me for everything that went wrong during our marriage. He said that the old him is gone. He's a new Nick that cares about himself and blames me for his finances falling apart because he was giving me money to help me out after our separation. He just bought a new house and a new car. I'm severely depressed." And another person, Nad Get Grrr, said, "Glitter Girl, take a good lawyer and sue that narc MF." And then Glitter Girl told this person, "I would, but he waited till our divorce was final in December, then made the big purchases. But he definitely is an MF." I responded, "Sounds like the typical projection they love to dish out, because nothing is ever their fault. Never mind that he presented a false self to you that was agreeable to everything you wished for in the beginning in order to hide the creature inside. And in a way it's true that the old him is gone. But the old him was nothing but a fabrication, equivalent to an article of clothing that he used to wear that got lost. Only in this case, it never existed. I think they find it much easier to simply blame everything on you rather than admit that it's a con artist. And I've heard the same kind of fictitious claim of,
"Now I'm taking care of me,"
which implies that previously he was taking care of you, which may be true as far as money or material goods, but when he pretended to be someone he wasn't without telling you he was a fraud and presented himself as real is a joke, because someone who does that is only caring for themselves while pretending to be caring for you emotionally." Glitter Girl responded, "TJ, I know we are the same when it comes to fur children. Get this, I asked that creep over last weekend, and he didn't even acknowledge the dog I have that was also his fur child for 7 years. This is the same demon that took my other 2 dogs from me, which is sickening. Yes, dogs, I think, are better than people. They don't turn on you. They don't pretend to be someone they're not just to get you to take care of them and then strike out as a monster later." Glitter Girl responded to my message saying, "Yes, exactly. He's portraying the exact person I waited and begged for, cried and pleaded for. He used to play computer games for hours during our 12-year marriage. Now he doesn't play the computer anymore. That was a huge issue that just magically disappeared when we split up. Yes, he's everything I wanted him to be now, or so he says. He tells me he's going to start dating. So in my mind, I'm thinking this new person is getting the man I almost gave my life for. It's sick. Would you consider making a video about this?" That's where we are right now. But all this talk about the old him being gone, that's all smoke and mirrors, because this creature knows firsthand that it's not a real person. It knows that it adapts to whoever it's pursuing, becomes whatever character it needs to, which means with you, maybe it mimics your type of etiquette on the phone or your text messages where you may say certain phrases and this person responds back to you with them. But then later when they're gone, you notice they're starting to use phrases you've never seen before, or they talk differently than they did with you. It's just weird because, again, they're not real. They're quick to blame others. They could be lucky and rich and have a bunch of money and just make up anything and just discard you. Or if they're not rich, they lost their money, and they ever gave you anything, of course they'll blame that on you. Well, it's your fault because I cared too much about you. I've mentioned that before, that someone with horrible credit will say,
"Oh, well, my credit's bad because I help everyone else but not myself."
and again, my thoughts to that are, well, then you're very irresponsible. If you can take care of yourself, great. If others need help and then you want to help them, great, do it. Don't sacrifice your own well-being for someone else's, which I seriously doubt it's what they did. Or if they did, it was something that was forced, and it's been rewritten to fit this fake narrative. And then there's the thing about asking it over. Hoover, it's what it sounds like, for the weekend, and it ignored the dog. I would think that would be very tough to take, if not just for what you're seeing, but for the poor dog's sake, because that dog probably thinks that this is a loving parent, or was. I have learned with dogs, they can detect evil. I've brought creatures over before that my little boy dog used to react violently to. Dogs, I've learned, can also be manipulated. Eventually, this dog will just climb right up on this person, act like everything's fine, and not bark anymore. I think that the creatures know how to get those dogs under their control. But it is weird because I had been with a person for 11 years. We shared 2 little babies, and I sometimes worry for the poor dog, thinking, what if the whole thing was fake? Because once I was discarded, we all 3 were discarded. Me and the 2 dogs. I thought, how could you discard your whole family? But I was kind of glad that it didn't say, oh, I'm going to keep the girl dog. I figured the way that works is the creature saw those 2 dogs and me as all one package in one compartment. Then when it moved on, it had no use for that. It was moving on to a new, brighter, greener pasture where there might be another pet or another something to take over, and it didn't want all that excess baggage. But luckily, I never witnessed this creature treating the girl terribly. In fact, this creature spoiled both of them, spent all kinds of money on them. Maybe that was to compensate for the fact it was a fake person. But these were adorable dogs. They were the sweetest things ever. The boy dog was funny. The creature would become lazy after going on 3-mile walks on a regular basis. All of a sudden, it was too tired and didn't want to go anymore, so I learned a trick with the boy dog. When I'd say, go tell so-and-so you want to go for a walk, and I'd whisper it, and then the dog would just run, charging down the steps, jump right on the creature's lap, stare it in the face, and just start talking to it with its mouth and voice, like barking at it. And I used to try to use guilt and say, you're going to turn that little face down? He's asking you to take him. He wants you to take him for it. And I don't know if that worked or not. The person could have just pretended, but a lot of times it gave in and went ahead and went. But it was always, well, it'll be a short one. But yes, I wouldn't be too concerned about this creature portraying the exact person that you waited for, because keep in mind, it is an act. It is a mask. I've experienced that same thing too, where you try so hard to make everything work great. You give all this advice and information and what you think are secrets that others don't know about, thinking that this will strengthen everything, and then it all splits apart. Then you worry they're going to take all that advice or information and make it work with the next person. Well, rest assured, that will not happen. It just doesn't. With this type of creature, it's a show. Just like the same thing happens when they go on to social media, posting all those pictures of, hi, we're so happy. And I see stuff like that, even when it's not someone I was involved with, and just think, yeah, that's ridiculous. Because like there'll be a person that's single, let's say, they just post regular things, but then one day,
oh, I've met the most wonderful person of my life. We're going to move here, and we're going to be so happy together. Oh, I cooked this dinner for him or her. Oh,
all this stuff, and I just look at that and think, fake. Superficial. Somebody's trying to isolate you and take you elsewhere if you're moving somewhere. And on more than one occasion, I've just sat back and not said a word, then watched as a new posting comes up.
I'm so devastated. I can't believe it. I thought this person was the one for me, and I found out that,
It could be any number of things. But I'd sit there just watching the whole thing as it goes by, thinking, okay, I can predict where this is going. Anything that seems too good to be true usually is. But these creatures love to prey upon that desire in people. So it's probably deliberately claiming to be different than it was previously. And if it is really changing its ways, it could just be an act. But you have to ask yourself, why would this creature have done the annoying thing for so long and then just stop? Unless it was to try to get you. It's a way of getting supply. It wants you to be upset. It wants you to think that it could have been you. But because now it's going to start dating, that supply supposed to make you feel very empty. These creatures are experts at that kind of thing. They feel empty from the day they're a child, adulthood, and today and beyond. They want you to feel that emptiness. They're deliberately pretending to be the person you wanted them to be, but when it says it's going to start dating, I would just sit back and watch it fall apart. I've done it a few times. I've gotten all worked up and worried and concerned and tried to reach out to people saying, don't mess with that person, that's a monster. I've learned it doesn't work. All it does is make you look like you are unhinged, jealous, and trying to prevent this other person's happiness. Who knows what else they've said about you? Usually it's stating you've done things that actually the creature has done. These new targets are very receptive to this, just like you probably were. When you meet a new person who's charming and friendly, usually the last thing we think is that this person's being nice for fake reasons. Even if we feel that way and say it, are you being nice for fake reasons? They will always say,
no, how could you say that?
And then, of course, years later, you find out that's exactly what they were doing. But I would not be concerned about this because that new person will have its own set of values, likes and dislikes for this creature to try to fit in with. But it is sickening that they'll do this kind of thing to you, because compare that to the love bombing where you think, wow, nobody's ever treated me so nicely before. This person must really like me. And then they do this. It's like the complete polar opposite, which is the most horrific thing anyone could ever do. And it's just too much for the regular person to deal with. It's just not normal. Typically, if you have a really good friendship and it fizzles away, it's a slow process. Over time, you eventually drift apart. It seems natural and normal because although you were happy before, whatever conflict occurred split you up, but it's usually a gradual thing. You could probably even typically talk to the person about it and just say, look, we've grown apart, we're just not the same, and you can leave with a sense of dignity. But with these creatures, there is no such thing. They just many times just disappear and play these types of games, thinking to themselves, I'll show her. She'll think that I found someone that she could have been, and she's going to feel that loss. I know she likes me, because they know if you're attracted to them. They don't attach to people, you do. So when you attach to such a creature, you've got all these things going along with it that fulfill your ideal of the perfect date, and it's really hard to let that go in many cases because you think of all the great things that you've been through and then think, well, if I could just fix these other things, then maybe it would all work. But that's not in the cards for these creatures. They know what they're doing. They know they're nothing like you. In fact, they probably get sick of playing the role after a while if it goes on too long, and they're relieved, so they'll say stupid things like,
I'm taking care of me now.
As I mentioned in the comment, and will reiterate, I had jaw-drop open moments when I heard that type of statement from this creature.
Like, I'm taking care of me now.
I think, you've only taken care of you this entire time. Sure, you might have done something friendly for me, like brought me a gift, or paid for this, or gave me a compliment. That is not looking out for me when, underneath it all, you're a disgusting con artist creature who's pretending to be someone in love. I think that whole game plan was keeping you in mind, because if you don't really reveal yourself, which these creatures cannot do, they will not put themselves in a vulnerable position because that's just too much for them. Like we talked about in another video, they put a mask on, they play a role. So if it fails or doesn't work or you insult them, well, it doesn't matter, it was a mask. They've given up on their real self, so they don't have that vulnerability most of us have when we meet a new person and we start to feel comfortable and we tell them more and more about ourselves. And if they still accept us, then we feel happy about that. These creatures can't risk any of that. These creatures simply pretend to be whatever they think it is you want, as long as you have something they want. And they oftentimes will have multiple characters going at once. Sometimes they'll overlap, and it'll be weird for you to see. One that I was involved with started talking in a completely different way when I was with it at this person's house, and later I said, who was that in there talking? It was crazy, like nothing I'd ever experienced before. Like, am I in a movie here? Is this candid camera? Is this a game? It's just sickening. But it is common to think that we're missing out, but take it from an expert that's seen a million of these things, it usually ends in disaster with the next person. It may take a long time. They may delay it. They can be very patient. If they find someone they have a way to trick, they can keep it going. Plus, they get supply knowing that they're sneaking around behind its back, making up excuses and lying, especially if you're an empathetic person. They like to go for the empaths because they look for the good in people, gives them extra supply and extra time. A lot of times we think that we can fix this, or we can work through this, which they have no intention of doing. We don't need to know that as far as they're concerned. So they will just drag it out as long as possible. Unfortunately, one of their talents and their nasty bag of tricks because you have no idea what goes on when they're not with you. A lot of them will put on an image, a fake image, when you're not with them. Oh, they're just sitting at home alone waiting for you, which makes you think that you've got even more power over this person than you really do, but they pretty much gauge what they think you want and then pretend to be it. It's funny though, if you watch it, see it, all of a sudden it'll take up some new hobby it never did before, like ones I've known. In the past I'd see social media where it would talk about some activity it was doing, which was nothing like the person I knew, and then I would try to do that activity, which was running, and it would say, oh, I hate running. And I think, wait a second, your social media was bragging about running on a regular basis, and now we're running and you don't like it? Well, it's just fake. They don't know who they are. Just be glad you're away from that mess. I oftentimes recall some of the situations I was in, or they get triggered based on something I read or say here, and at the end of it, it's always a relief, thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I'm no longer with that monster. What if I would have stayed? I'd probably be dead. You're really better off, but it doesn't seem that way. But one day in the future, it will become apparent, and you'll look back on the whole thing and think, huh, what a joke. And then if you by chance find yourself involved with another one, it helps you then, because let's say you do fall in with another one and it does the same type of thing, then you'll be able to look back on that previous one thinking, I remember how I thought the world was over. Then I remember that time when I got away from it and actually felt proud and happy. Well, I can do that again. And it's empowering, because if it's the first time, it can seem like the end of the world. Like there's nothing else to go to. There's nothing else to do. Thought you found the love of your life and it's fizzled out. It's over. But it's not. It's just begun. Your life is now full of mystery.
Honey, I am the narcopath with the 7-inch heel to boot. Pun intended.
I'm here to tell you about our little dating experience.
You told me about how your ex-lover made you afraid to date because your ex-lover lied to you and cheated.
Well, honey, lying and cheating are my specialty.
But I couldn't tell you that because I saw something in you. I knew you had the goods that I was going to get a hold of. So when you said that, I assured you, well, honey, you're safe with me. I don't ever lie or cheat. As a matter of fact, I was lied to by my ex-lover, too. So I, in effect, mirrored you. And that got you to open up more and tell me more. You had no idea that I cheated and lied to every single one of my exes. But I didn't think that needed to be mentioned because I had a plan. I had to think about myself. You said you didn't want to get serious. And I told you, oh, that's fine, neither do I. But then I eventually told you I was in love and tried to pressure you to tell me you loved me and me only because I knew your kind. Be faithful, and that's what I wanted. My dream is to have the man or woman of my dreams who's faithful to me and to me only, while I'm out cavorting, making love to male, females, dogs, and cats, without anyone knowing, you see. That gives me the thrill. I think you all call it narcissistic supply. To know that I've got a lover waiting at home, thinking that I'm devoted to him or her, or both of them. And then I'm out in the motel, nude, with my thighs spread wide open. That's right, knowing that you at home would never know. If by chance someone happens to leak a video of it, I'll just say, well, that's one of them deep fakes. That ain't me, honey. Someone took my face off a picture and put it in there. We didn't have that before, so I can't wait to use that excuse. The point of it was, I knew you were all about honesty. I told you I wouldn't ever like you, but you kept finding little slip-ups where I told you I did this, but I really did that, and you questioned it, and I always had a reason or an excuse. You kept saying the point was it was a lie, and I made it clear that I didn't lie. Well, honey, I feel that since you hadn't devoted yourself to me at that point, I had no obligation to tell you the truth. Despite the fact that I told you every day I'd never lie, well, I was lying every day. BJ told me that that's unfair to you because you make decisions based on what you know, and if I'm telling you that you're the only one and you're not, and you're making decisions on that, well, that's the fly for me. But evidently that's not the right thing to do, is what I hear. Is that right?
You got it.
So I made up my own rules, and I was looking at you face to face, telling you I'm not lying. I am not lying to you. I'm telling the truth. Never been with anyone else but you, which was all a lie. But I didn't have to tell you the truth because you hadn't given me your ring yet. See? Of course, I never told you these rules. These are my own private rules that I follow, and I follow alone. And if you would have been with someone else, oh, it would have been the end of whoever it was, because that's cheating. No one cheats on me. I cheat on everyone. You didn't need to know that at the time. That would have ruined my fire, taken away my strength. So hopefully now you'll understand why I told you I was being honest when I was lying every day. That's just the way it works with a narcopath, honey. The truth means nothing to me unless it gives me what I want. If it doesn't, well then I alter it. So there.
Never mind, cause I know that I'm sweeter. Your time is up to put my money in the arena. You think I put it up when I don't know pretty good. But what I do know is that I'm holding on this roll. You're on a roll. As opposed to this and I think that I'm a threat, cause I'm the best that you could ever get. I never think that ease yourself and ease yourself. I know you despise me, you criticize me, override me. But I'm better and a whole lot cleverer. But don't get it, you know I trust never. I'm on a rage, I'm on a craze. How much of a record that to my rage? If I set ya to get the better of me, I'm gonna let ya. And every time of the day, I'm gonna get ya. You come running to me, yes, I bet ya. And going out like a sucker. There's no need to huff and puff up. Cause they think I am tougher than you think, so you just gotta tough up. But the root is bolder, cold getting dumb, cold getting colder. Spend half the time looking over your shoulder. There ain't another MC who can be the quick. You ain't ever been considered that anyone. I'm just not gonna take time out to watch that song and face. Sure, I take like an aftertaste. So, face the fact that I do the job well. And hell, why not? I got a lot to tell me what you're saying. I'm not saying somebody's gotta go out and chase the Jackson, Savage, you got to be right. Get up, get with it, or get out of my sight. You can go home until we put you in the mood. So am I, you, but I'm a